Indiana's very own CBS4 This Morning starts now.
It might not look like much, but the roads are in rough shape.
Need to get off the ramp, you're going to cause an accident.
Icy conditions causing crashes across central Indiana.
It's just so hard to keep up with accident after accident. That's why it's just a barrage of tweets from me because things just keep popping up.
This is what we're dealing with this morning, you guys. And then you hit your brakes, but they don't work.
Sprinkle or mist, and you add that into those temperatures that are below freezing, and boy, it's just going to leave a coating of ice on everything.
So, Frank, I don't think we can say this enough this morning to our viewers. Slow down as you head out there on your way to work or to drop your kids off at school.
6:30, it's bad out there. That might be an understatement. Right now, we have more than 115 school delays, among them Carmel Clay schools. Your Weather Authority team, we've got you covered. We've got team coverage this morning here at 6:30. Let's go to Kyle Inskeep first, out on the roads. And Kyle, you've been there looking around, and I guess you're seeing still patches of this, right?
That's exactly right, Frank. We are heading back towards the northwest side right now, and I can tell you that these side roads are really the concern for drivers. They're what we have seen the most trouble spots on. 465, we've been on that throughout the morning as we go to different sides of the city, and 465 is in decent condition. I don't want to give anyone extra confidence as they're going out there. Don't think that you're going to be doing 70, 75 there. You still need to take it slow. Obviously, black ice is a concern, but 465 and the interstates are definitely in much better condition than these side roads. As we turn here onto this side street, you can see we're going much slower because we're seeing a lot of crashes and slide-offs happen in intersections all across the city right now. We have been checking in with NDOT. I just got a response from one of their spokespersons telling me that they were out overnight, and then yesterday actually pre-treating, and then overnight they were out salting the road. So I think that's obviously why we're seeing better things at 465. But we have been seeing DPW crews that handle the city streets and the side roads out this morning as well, Frank. But I don't think we can say it enough. Take it slow. You are not going to be going as fast as you normally are on your way to school, or whether you're dropping the kids off or heading to work this morning as well. So I'll send it back to you guys there in the studio.
Yeah, Kyle, thanks. And to his point, we've been asking questions about, okay, when did the salt trucks get out? How long have they had to get going on this? Angela Brower just got an update on that, and you're on the northwest side showing us how it is hit or miss depending on where you are and which street it is.
Exactly. And Department of Public Works, I don't know if Kyle was able to say this, saying now that they have 12 trucks out and that they've been out since midnight. But I just talked to some crews that were throwing down salt. They've been through several of these large bags so far, trying to treat nearby parking lots and sidewalks. And they admitted that they got out fairly late, that they didn't get out until 3 o'clock this morning, which was essentially too late to treat some of those conditions because of the spotty, slick areas. When you walk out to your car this morning, you know, it doesn't look all that bad. You might find a little bit of frost on your windshield, kind of like this here. But once you get out on the roads, you look at it and you're like, okay, well, it's just wet. There's not a lot of snow out here, but the icy conditions are what we are watching a very close eye on. People really slowing down this morning as they head to work, and for good reason. We have heard from several counties so far. Overnight, Boone County reporting slow driving, that roads are treacherous there, including 865. Johnson County reporting the roads there are, quote, treacherous. They've already had a few slide-offs, accidents. Bartholomew, the roads are slick there. Morgan County slide-offs, and then in Speedway, slick with specific problems along High School Road, Lyndhurst, and then also Crawfordsville. Now, Frank, you were talking earlier about Hamilton County. Hamilton, along with Hancock, Bartholomew, Delaware specifically, some of the better areas that we saw this morning, really not a lot of problems. But again, it's very spotty out there. So you may be headed out of your neighborhood and everything's good, but once you hit a street, say 71st, you're going to be sliding through intersections, your brake system going kaput. We'd love to know what you're seeing if you hit some of those roads that are a little bit iffy. Once you get to work safely, please share some of those spots on our CBS4 Indy Facebook page. We can't be everywhere at once, so we'd love to hear from you and help some of our other viewers out as well. We'll send it back to you in the studio.
Yeah, and Ange, one of those on our team that had a personal story this morning. We've had people in our building going the speed limit, far under the speed limit, spinning this morning coming into work.
Right. I mean, we've had coworkers say that they basically slid sideways down that ramp to 71st Street.
Yeah.
I know that 96th Street was a mess. I came in there and it was like therapy time. I was like, I made it, because it was pure ice on the way in, and we're just seeing accident after accident popping up, so it's hard to touch on them all. So we're going to get to the major ones, and one of those new ones on eastbound I-70. You're seeing all these flashing lights here. This is near Ronald Reagan Parkway. With this new one, it's eastbound I-70, blocking that far left lane there and causing some slowing here in this area. We can take a closer look. I mean, this map just gives you an indication as to how bad it is out there and how we should not underestimate these conditions. Taking a look right here, you can see that backup already developing there on eastbound I-70, and another area that has just proven to be absolutely horrible this morning, southbound I-65, although not closed anymore, still seeing plenty of red there after that earlier accident near Main Street. Also northbound I-65 at Worthsville Road, still seeing slowing there. A new accident also on northbound I-65. This one is right near Whiteland Road, so I mean, you're just talking accident after issue there on that south side. Also a new accident here, I-74. We thought we were breathing easy. Guess what? Now westbound I-74 at Ronald Reagan Parkway dealing with an issue over there, and there's a look at that north split as well, Rob.
All right, take a deep breath. go. I'll take over for a minute. Catch your breath. A lot to talk about. Now, here's the reason why we're having so many of these issues. It's a low precipitation but a high impact event. It's not been a lot that's rolled through. When you look at the amount that's actually fallen, it's more like a trace that's moved through. There was one little band of some quick snow showers that rolled on by. This added a quick little coating to most locations, but we're also seeing a little bit of these small mist particles, light drizzle that's coming down, and it's falling into an atmosphere that is below freezing, upper 20s to near 30 degrees. We've seen these temperatures hover right around 30 or maybe drop into the upper 20s, and when you add those two combinations together, you get slick roadways, even though it's not a lot that's been fallen. And keep in mind, we had some very heavy rain over the last couple of days, so any treatment that was out there on the roadways, it is gone. You know, when we were below freezing for a while, it was okay to keep the treatment on the roads, a little bit of snow falls, and then it was really not a big deal because the salt helps out. We washed all of that away. We will get above freezing today, 34, but in the meantime, expect freezing drizzle and a few flurries out there. Warmer temperatures on the way. I'll let you know when those arrive, Frank, coming up.
All right, so we're here on air, but look, maybe you can't get to your television. This is a phenomenal tool, the Weather Authority app. If you don't have it, the good news here, it's free of charge. It's going to send you those weather alerts so you know what's coming. It's free for Android and Apple devices. So at 6:37, we have some scary moments at Greenfield Central High School. A 17-year-old posted a video online showing him holding a gun on school property. School was immediately put on lockdown. Police found the 17-year-old in a car with two other teenagers. One juvenile was released. However, the 17-year-old and an 18-year-old could face charges.
Then I saw there was a lot of blood everywhere, and then people were getting shoved down. Like, I can never look at the school the same because I know, what happened.
And they all have to be in shock. A kid describing a day at school like that. Two of his classmates are dead. More than a dozen have been wounded. The gunman, a 15-year-old student at the school. This was in Western Kentucky just about 24 hours ago. And it's not the first school shooting we've seen just this week. On Monday, police say a 16-year-old boy shot a 15-year-old girl in their high school's cafeteria. That girl is recovering in a hospital up near Dallas. We're told they're in good spirits. This is coming from the school. And that particular incident happened in the community of Italy, Texas, about 45 miles south of Dallas. A preliminary hearing will be happening this morning for that 16-year-old who might be tried as an adult. We've had more than 280 school shootings in the U.S. since the Sandy Hook massacre in 2013. Those numbers are coming from Everytown, which is a gun control group created because of Sandy Hook. Several shootings have taken place in Indiana. January 22nd, 2016, 17-year-old Paul Rayner shot a 15-year-old outside Lawrence Central High School. This was after a basketball game. The 15-year-old survived, thank heavens. Rayner was sentenced to 8 years in prison. January 21st, 2014, Andrew Bolt was stabbed and shot multiple times inside an electrical engineering classroom at Purdue. Cody Cousins pleaded guilty. He committed suicide in prison. Since 2013, Everytown has recorded 6 shootings on high school or college campuses in our state. That is sobering. 6:39. Former USA gymnastics team doctor Larry Nassar could be sentenced as soon as today, and we're going to hear from a man who interviewed him, an Indy Star reporter taking us inside the mind of Larry Nassar. But first, IndyCar drivers, they're pretty fast, but can they keep up in our Fast Four? Rachel Bogle going one-on-one with Alexander Rossi as he's competing on the amazing race. And let's just say 4 good questions, 4 good answers.
And nobody should be going fast this morning whenever it comes to these black ice-coated roads. This accident on eastbound I-70 blocking one lane, well, that's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to issues. Taking a look at our map, that's what we're dealing with today. The other issue my eye is on, aside from this one, would be down on southbound I-65 and northbound I-65 there near Greenwood, with 3 accidents dotting that interstate there in both directions. So we have the latest on that area, as well as some of the newest accidents popping up in your area. And of course, you can get all the updates at Rachel Bogle on my social media, because we can't fit it all in here.
Watching Rose this morning at 6:43 on CBS4 this morning. Why are we watching Rose? Because very little precipitation has caused a whole lot of trouble. This is Drive Cam on West 56th Street on the northwest side of Indianapolis. You see that white on the side of the road? That is a blatant example of what I am talking about. It doesn't look like this on all roads, because it depends on where you are with this event. We've got the traffic authority, Rachel Bogle, talking traffic in just a few minutes. Now, every Wednesday night, right here on CBS4, we're rooting for Team IndyCar, also known as Connor Daly and Alexander Rossi, crisscrossing the globe on the amazing race. So we got Rachel Bogle, who caught up with Rossi. He won the world's greatest race, the 100th running of the Indy 500, now gearing up for this amazing race. Is it hard for him? I wonder.
Yeah, you know, I mean, how hard can that really be, right? You know, but the thing is, he did disclose that the guy's never been camping before, so it might have been a little harder than we initially thought. I got to go one-on-one to find out how one of the fastest men in the world prepared for this amazing race for our edition of Fast Four.
Very close second, Alex and Connor. Congratulations, team.
How do you even prepare for something like this?
You don't. My preparation was going into REI and like buying things that I thought would make sense when you go camping-ish. It was weird because they don't tell you what you can pack. They just tell you what you can't pack. So it's kind of like the world is your oyster in terms of what you're gonna bring.
So what can you not pack?
Anything electronic, basically.
Okay. So you're cut off.
You can't pack maps. Not that you know the countries you were going to.
Right.
You can't pack like language booklets. Anything that would give you more knowledge, I guess.
Like a leg up.
Like a leg up.
Yeah,
but you can pack as much energy bars and soap and headlamps as you want. But yeah, there's no books, I guess, or Kindles.
Right. Is there anything that you didn't pack that you wish you would have once you got into it?
I think I would have loved like protein packets, like powder.
Yeah.
Because like I packed some of those like energy gels and stuff.
Like the marathon runners use?
Yeah, but that was just gross. And it didn't actually fill you up. So yeah, it gave you calories, but it wasn't great.
It doesn't do anything.
It doesn't do anything. So I would have liked that to have some like substance, because you actually, on the legs of the race, you don't really eat.
Who do you think the most prepared team was?
I think Cody and Jessica are whatever. I mean, he was in the military. I mean, he was a Marine for 2 tours. So like we saw him kind of show up at the starting line, because you don't actually interact with the contestants until the starting line. So when we found out who he was, it was like, all right, yeah, well, you should probably just give him the prize right now.
We had a nice long sit down, and that was really just the tip of the iceberg with what we learned. My favorite bit of insider info that he shared during that interview was Connor actually was not his first choice of teammate for Team IndyCar. So Which driver was? Well, that's a part of my web extra, and you can get that answer by checking online right now at CBS4Indy.com. That answer might surprise some people, and for others it might just make sense. You got to go there to find out, though.
Yeah, amazing race tonight at 8 p.m. every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Hopefully Team IndyCar can stay in it. Now, speaking of hopes, look, we hope you hear us when we say this is not a normal commute. Today is not normal.
You might think it is, because when you head out, there's nothing, as you look out your door, it doesn't make sense. You're like, oh, it looks maybe a little wet, kind of like we've seen the last 2 days. Not the case. No. And we all experienced that on our way in today, and we're seeing that play out in the worst way on our roads. So I have just been updating, and our latest issue here, once again, we've had our eye on I-65 plenty this morning. Southbound I-65, we have an accident there. You can see vehicles pulled off to that far right side at that exit ramp there. Also, I'm going to take a closer look here in just a bit after we take a look at I-70, but that was just one of a few accidents there. Another one causing some major slowing eastbound I-70 at Ronald Reagan Parkway. That was blocking that left lane there, and we are seeing still a closure on southbound I-65. This time it starts at County Line Road, goes down to Main Street, and of course there's that new accident northbound I-65 at Whiteland Road, but there was also another one just north of there at Worthsville Road. So plenty of things to keep our eyes out for this morning. Rob?
All right, I want to talk about why we've had so many issues, and you can really see that in just this one graphic. I know it doesn't have a whole lot, but first of all, look at the kind of misty view that we have. A lot of freezing drizzle coming out there, very small droplets, but they add a coating to everything, and with the temperature holding below freezing, it's just going to be a sheet of ice on everything. And look at this, precipitation. Now, it's not very much, 0.01. But all it took was that 0.01 in the form of a little freezing drizzle or some light snow flurries to add a sheet of ice to everything. And you really can't even see a whole lot on satellite and radar until you get in close. And I've been saying I really turned up the sensitivity so that you could see some of those drizzle particles or even a few snow flurries that have rolled through, and they're falling into temperatures that are in the upper 20s to near 30. This is probably going to stay with us the next couple of hours or so, although I think the intensity of the precipitation should come down a bit. It's still going to be a little bit of freezing drizzle, and the temperatures will not get above freezing for at least another couple of hours. Now, as far as what to expect here, well, we're trying to move all of this out of here, but even into the afternoon, we may see some light flurries before we finally get some drier air to move in. The drier air should help to dry up a lot of that leftover moisture, but watch for slick spots, even if we get above freezing and then dip back down below freezing tonight. Although we won't be adding additional precipitation, there may be some spots that could be a little bit slick. Look at Thursday, though. Once we get into Thursday, boy, the sky's really clear, and we open things up to a very nice pattern over the next several days. Friday's the same way, as we'll keep clear skies in there for at least the first half of your Friday before the clouds move back in. Temperatures, 30s today. That's not so bad. As we look to Thursday, well, we get into the mid-40s. That's good. We're moving in the right direction, and more of that warm air moves our way as we look to Friday with the high temperatures getting into the 50s. So it is a steady increase in the temperatures all the way through the rest of this week. Get through today, and I promise you it gets better with 52 for both days, Friday and Saturday. Temperatures today, 34. We will cool things down tonight, back down into the 20s, 24. But after that, all the temperatures there as we head toward the weekend are above freezing. We won't go back down below freezing until next week. Frank.
All right, so stay safe. 6:50, another check of roads from our team coverage coming up. Plus, we're talking with the Indy Star reporter who conducted the only known interview with former USA Gymnastics Dr. Larry Nassar. Nassar today could be sentenced for sexually abusing people he called patients. .53, so much to discuss this morning. First, we have to talk about icy roads. Here we are going into the heat of the morning commute. We already have 140 school delays, so we are on top of that with team coverage. And then there's another big story we're on top of.
I'm Trisha Hart, keeping you up to the minute. 6 days of victim statements, but today could be the day former USA Gymnastics Dr. Larry Nassar learns his fate. He pleaded guilty to 7 counts of criminal sexual conduct, but the judge opened his sentencing hearing to any victim of his sexual abuse. To date, 163 women shared their stories claiming Nassar sexually abused them under the guise of medical treatment.
This man inappropriately touched me, and it was wrong.
The windfall continues. The NCAA announced it's investigating how Michigan State University handled complaints of sexual abuse during Nassar's time there, and AT&T pulled its sponsorship of USA Gymnastics until it feels the organization better protects its athletes. Nassar faces up to 125 years in prison on top of the 60-year sentence he's serving for child pornography.
All right, so this is a treat. We've got a Hoosier giving us some very interesting insight into Dr. Nassar. Indy Star reporter Tim Evans interviewed Nassar back in 2016. An article about that conversation is shedding some new light on Dr. Nassar's demeanor, and Tim really goes into that in that article. And Tim, I just want to go straight to the heart of this. You know, we've seen Nassar write this letter to the judge this week or last week saying he didn't want to listen to all these ladies' stories about what he did to them. What's going through his mind? Do you have an idea if he understands these allegations and understands what he's being convicted of? I think he must, or you know, his attorney would have been pleading some sort of mental issue, but I think he must have some way that he can compartmentalize it or not realize it, because again, you know, in my interview with him, he was so adamant that he was innocent and you know, how this was going to harm him, and you know, you can't fathom knowing now that he had molested hundreds of women at the time he was telling me how innocent he was and seeming so sincere. Now, I think a lot of us now, because of Allie Raceman, particularly of late, we're turning our attention to USA Gymnastics, Michigan State University. How soon did someone know? What's your sense of how things just never seemed to come together and put the right focus on what was going on with Nassar and how he was treating these ladies? Well, you know, we investigated USA Gymnastics, so I know a little more about that, and I think, you know, people have said they were more interested in medals and success and money than in the welfare of the athletes. Michigan State's an interesting situation here because, you know, people were told at Michigan State as early as in the late 90s, 97, I think the first young lady came forward. And the fact that they didn't do anything is you know, really troubling, and I think it, you know, they have a lot of exposure legally. And that's what most people can't understand is, I think we as normal people, you hear that allegation, you immediately are calling police, you hope. Is this just the way some organizations are because of culture and groupthink, this is how they respond to these things? I think some of it is that. The other part is, I think, you know, that was unique because Nassar was a doctor and he was so revered, and I think even police and some of those folks deferred to doctors. You know, he must be doing, you know, he wouldn't do this. It's a medical procedure. We just don't, you know, his line was, you just don't understand. It's a very specialized, and you know, it's the layman can't understand this. And he was able to bluff his way through 2 investigations that were kind of kept things quiet for years. And then we came across it, and I spent days, weeks really investigating what procedure would be and when it would be useful. And by the time I interviewed him, I had a pretty good handle on it. And I think we caught him off guard a little bit at that point because he, you know, we didn't fall for his bluff necessarily that he had succeeded with before. It's not that people did not know either. Right, and that's just becoming very clear. Tim, thank you so much. Tim Evans with the Indy Star. Great article. You should check that out on indystar.com. All right, let's get with Angela Brower outside because you know what? We've been talking a lot about the weather and the traffic and just how hit or miss it can be, and that might be causing some surprise in some of these wrecks.
Exactly, and Frank, you know what? Our viewers are going to step out the door this morning and kind of be scratching their heads because it doesn't really look all that bad. We didn't get a ton of snow. Of course, we had a little bit of rain yesterday and a drizzle overnight. Rob will talk more about that. But the problem is that the ground temperature is a lot colder than the air temperature. We have this temperature gun to really illustrate that. It is below freezing this morning, and so any moisture hitting the surface is basically freezing on contact, and it's really spotty. So if you head out in your neighborhood, maybe isn't that bad. You may hit some of those streets like 71st Street, 465, those bridges and overpasses. Really interesting this morning. A lot of crashes, slide-offs reported as well. DPW reporting that they have 12 trucks out salting right now, so not a lot. We've seen crews out who admittedly said they were late to the game on this, didn't get out until sometimes 3, 4 o'clock this morning, and by then it was essentially too late. The advice to you this morning, take it slow and give yourself plenty of time.
All right, and taking a look at temperatures, look at there, 34 for the high, but we're probably going to stay below freezing with freezing drizzle and flurries expected through the early part of the day. Tonight we'll drop it back down into the 20s. That's our expected temperature, 24 for the overnight low.
And as you take a look at this map, I mean, it has just been a treacherous morning, to say the least. We can't even mention all of these accidents. We're just going to go over the ones that could impact you the most. And I'm sharing all the others, of course, on social media. But northbound I-65 at Worstville Road, you do have that far left lane blocked, seeing plenty of slow conditions. Earlier, southbound I-65 was closed between Worstville Road and Whiteland Road. It's now open, but still a bit slow there in that area. Also checking in to our northeast side, 71st Street at Shadeland Road. We have a new accident there. Also, the ramp is partially blocked from southbound I-69 to 465. And then taking a look as well up in Pendleton, the left lane is blocked there on southbound I-69 near State Street. Starting to see some big backup with that one. And then heading back here into the metro area, it looks like we have cleared up with this earlier accident at eastbound I-70 near Ronald Reagan Parkway. But as you can see here, still pretty slow as they wrap that up.
All right, so we're wrapping up going to New York, but we're back at 25 minutes as we stay up to the minute on what's happening here closer to home. We'll see you in a bit.